This guy is one of the most underrated philosophers in modern times. He thought that there are some things that are 100% objectively, without a doubt, true. But what could those truths possibly be? Nietzsche, a thinker I've covered extensively on this channel, challenged the very idea of objective truth. Nietzsche writes, "What then is truth? A movable host of metaphors, metonymies, and anthropomorphisms. In short, a sum of human relations which have been poetically and rhetorically intensified, transferred and embellished, and which, after long usage, seem to a people to be fixed, canonical, and binding. Truths are illusions which we have forgotten are illusions. They are metaphors that have become worn out and have been drained of sensuous force, coins which have lost their embossing and are now considered as metal and no longer as coins." To begin with, one big problem with Nietzsche is that he didn't write in a clear traditional philosophical style, so it is sometimes very hard to figure out what he actually thought on different topics. But it seems to me, and I believe many Nietzsche scholars would agree, that the whole notion of truth is put into question within his philosophy. Truth is merely a man-made concept. Truth is like sand slipping through your grasp. Whenever you think you possess it, it has changed form. Either truth is merely relative to a person's perspective, or the claim to truth is just a tool for the will to power. In either case, not real truths, if you ask me. But I believe there are such a thing as objective truth. And what made me change my mind was reading this paper by G.E Moore. Moore claimed that there are propositions that simply cannot be disputed. They are not 50% or 90% true, but 100% true. Here are a few of these sentences. "There exists at present a living human body, which is my body. This body was born at a certain time in the past and has existed continuously ever since, though not without undergoing changes. It was, for instance, much smaller when it was born and for some time afterward than it is now." And it goes on. This set of sentences is just true and indisputable according to Moore. Whenever I utter them, I know at the same time that they are 100% true. But Moore doesn't stop there. He claims that there is a second set of sentences that are true in the same way. These sentences are much like the first set, but instead of being claims about one's own subjective experience, they claim that everybody else knows and believes that they are true about themselves. Since you're watching this video, you're likely philosophically inclined and might think, well, the truth of these propositions depend on what you mean by the words you use. Here, Moore wholeheartedly disagrees. They seem to think that the question, "Do you believe that the Earth has existed for many years past?" is not a plain question, such as should be met either by a plain yes or no, or by a plain "I can't make up my mind," but is the sort of question which can be properly met by "It all depends on what you mean by the Earth and exists and years." It seems to me that such a view is as profoundly mistaken as any view can be. Such an expression as "the Earth has existed for many years past" is the very type of an unambiguous expression, the meaning of which we all understand. The point here is that there are simply expressions that all of us knows exactly what they mean. Now, how can Moore make these claims? Certainly, many philosophers throughout the ages would have disputed some of these propositions, right? But I actually think that Moore has a point. Because there is a big problem with any type of skeptical argument, including Nietzsche's critique of truth. They need premises. And in order to have these premises, one cannot be skeptical about them, or the whole argument will end up being self-defeating. Let me elaborate. The thing with certain expressions is that they logically imply other things. For instance, whenever someone utters the word we or us, she is implying that other people exist, thus revealing her belief in the existence of other people. And it is the same thing with, let's say, pointing at something and saying this or that, which implies that you believe that this, whatever you're pointing at, exists. So radical skepticism becomes, in a way, impossible. Whenever one formulates a premise, one constantly reveals bedrock beliefs that one possesses. The philosopher David Armstrong summarizes this quite nicely in this book, What is a Law of Nature? He writes, "One of the problems involved in casting doubt upon such beliefs is that the doubt-casting arguments require premises, but it is not easy to see from where the premises can be collected. To use premises that are not drawn from the bedrock of our beliefs is to bring the less certain as a reason for doubting the more certain." That is what Nietzsche is doing. He is using the less certain, so to say, in order to cast doubt upon the more certain. The big point that Moore makes is that philosophy has to begin somewhere, a common ground we all share, and that common ground must obviously be common sense. After having studied quite a lot of analytic philosophy, I found that there is a constant return to common sense. It is frequently used as an argument, and I think it's a good one. It is therefore, I believe, that Moore actually provided a foundation for most of analytic philosophy. Well, maybe the pragmatist movement excluded there, but anyways. But if a philosopher brings forward an idea that is in conflict with our common sense beliefs, such as there are no truths, like Nietzsche, then further premises must be provided to support such a claim. Something Nietzsche can't do, right? Because he disputed the very notion of true premises. Nietzsche is only left with a lonely, unsupported claim that there is no such thing as objective truth, which itself cannot be true if there is no objective truth. I believe that Moore's philosophy is a bedrock view within the analytic tradition. I mean, just look at this survey of how many philosophers support non-skeptical realism regarding the external world. Only about 5% lean towards skepticism. Moore actually acknowledges that it could be the case that, for instance, the external world doesn't exist and the only thing that exists is our perception of it. But it is very hard to justify such a metaphysical claim without the support of premises that are not based in some bedrock of our common sense belief that it isn't. However, there is one thing that Nietzsche might have been correct about, and that is the nature of morality. In this discussion, I've only talked about propositions regarding the truth of subjective experience, the existence of the external world and other people. But can we really make the same claim about moral propositions, such as helping people is a good action? Is this sentence true in the same Moorean sense as the other sentences that we have discussed? Moore claims that it is, and that we know what good and bad are by intuitions similar to our common sense notions. Here he wrote, If I am asked what is good, my answer is that good is good, and that is the end of the matter. Or if I am asked how is good to be defined, my answer is that it cannot be defined, and that is all I have to say about it. That I'm not certain of, but there certainly are philosophers who claim that that is the case. But Nietzsche, of course, heavily disputes this. And if you want to know more about that, then do check out this video here.